Pouring rain on an empty suburban road, Ethan Ward, a man in a worn jacket, was driving his daughter home. The headlights swept across someone lying motionless by the roadside, a female police officer, uniform soaked with blood, gun fallen beside her. "Daddy, she's not moving!" the little girl screamed. Ethan stopped the car, ran over, placed his hand on her neck. "You're still breathing, hold on!" In the distance, sirens echoed. She mumbled, "Don't! Let them know I was shot from behind." He froze. As he tore fabric to bandage the wound, the light illuminated the badge on her chest. Detective Harper Voss. Ethan Ward, 37 years old, single dad, former rescue worker, now worked as a night shift driver to support his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Simple life, mornings taking his daughter to school, evenings delivering packages, always teaching her help others even if they don't help back. That rainy night when he discovered the injured officer, he lifted her into the car, applied pressure to stop the bleeding, driving while calling 911. His voice shook but was decisive. "I have someone who's been shot. Need emergency help immediately." She fainted, only managing to say, "Don't let them see my phone." At the hospital, the doctor said, if someone hadn't applied pressure correctly, she would have died before arrival. Ethan just bowed his head, didn't give his name. Lily held up a badge that had fallen on the seat. "Daddy, she's strong like a superhero." The next morning, news spread. Detective Harper Voss, narcotics investigator, ambushed, currently in critical condition. Police opened an investigation, suspecting she was attacked by her own colleagues. Ethan decided to return to the scene to help find evidence. He found her phone dropped near the bushes. Unlocking the screen, a photo of a smiling little girl with a note, "For my daughter Ava." He went silent. The woman lying between life and death was also a mother. When police arrived, he surrendered the phone without revealing he was the rescuer. Just said, "I happened to find it. Hope it helps find the truth." But Ethan's connection to this moment went deeper than simple heroism. 7 years ago, he'd been firefighter Ethan Ward, decorated, respected. One of those guys who ran into buildings when everyone else ran out. Then his wife Sarah had died, not in a fire, in a hospital, breast cancer, stage 4, caught too late. Despite his health insurance, despite the treatments, despite everything, she died when Lily was only 1 year old. He tried to continue as a firefighter, but the job requires focus, split-second decisions, lives depending on you being fully present, and Ethan was drowning in grief, unable to be present for anything. He'd frozen during a call, a child trapped in a burning building. Ethan had stood at the entrance, paralyzed, while his team rushed past him to make the rescue. The child had survived, but Ethan's career hadn't. He'd resigned before they could fire him, took disability for PTSD, tried to figure out how to be a single father when he could barely function as a human being. The night shift delivery job had saved him. Literally, the routine, the quiet hours, the simple task of getting packages from point A to point B, no life or death decisions, no one depending on him for survival except Lily. He'd rebuilt himself slowly. Therapy, medication, support groups, learning to be present for his daughter, even when grief tried to pull him under. Teaching Lily about helping others had been part of his healing, trying to pass on the values that had made him a firefighter in the first place, even if he couldn't do that job anymore. So when he'd seen Harper lying on that road, bleeding out, every instinct had kicked back in. Muscle memory, training he thought he'd lost. The knowledge that someone was dying and he had the skills to stop it. He'd saved her not despite his trauma, but because of it, because he knew what it was like to lose someone, to watch them slip away, and he couldn't let that happen again if he had any power to prevent it. Conclusion of Act 1. That night, he prayed with his daughter, "Sweetheart, we didn't just save one person. We might have saved another child from losing their mother." At the hospital, Harper opened her eyes. The first thing she asked, "Where is the person who saved me?" A nurse later recounted, "When he brought her in, blood all over his clothes, he didn't ask for anything. Just kept saying, 'Keep her alive. She has a daughter. Then he left before we could get his name. Harper woke up, vaguely remembering a man's voice and a little girl's in the rain. When superiors asked, she only replied, "I didn't see his face in time." Meanwhile, Ethan continued working, avoiding the media. One day, he happened to meet Captain Morales, the district police chief, asking around the neighborhood. Ethan just said, "Hope she recovers." Morales replied, "If she lives, the whole unit will be shaken. This case isn't simple." 1 week later, Harper was discharged. She publicly announced she would investigate who shot her. Reviewing hospital security footage, she saw Ethan and the little girl bringing her in. She found the small boarding house where he lived. The first meeting, Harper knocked on the door. Lily opened it. "Miss, Daddy's making pancakes." Ethan looked up, stunned. "You shouldn't be moving around much. You saved me. I came to thank you." "No need. I just did what anyone should do." Harper looked around the small room. A few photos of his daughter, worn toys, and old rescue boots. "You used to be a rescue worker?" "Used to. Now I just try to survive enough to raise my daughter." She smiled weakly. "Maybe that's why you knew how to save my life." After that, Harper often visited to play with Lily, bringing cookies, telling police stories. Lily said, "Miss, my mom is gone, but now I have two of the best lifesavers." Harper was moved, tears rolling down, but the relationship developing between them was complicated by Harper's investigation. She'd been working narcotics for 5 years, had made enemies, lots of them, drug dealers who wanted her dead, corrupt cops protecting those dealers, a whole ecosystem of people who benefited from her silence. The shooting hadn't been random. It had been an execution, professional, calculated, someone who knew her route home, who knew she'd be alone, who knew exactly where to aim. The shot from behind suggested someone she'd trusted, someone she'd turned her back on without fear, a colleague, maybe even a friend. Reviewing evidence, she discovered her own department had contaminated the crime scene, accidentally destroyed ballistic evidence, mistakenly lost security footage from nearby businesses. Captain Morales, who she'd trusted for years, seemed nervous when she asked questions, evasive, like he knew more than he was saying. She couldn't trust anyone at the department, except maybe this stranger who'd saved her life for no reason, who had nothing to gain, who'd helped because it was right, not because it was strategic. "Can I ask you something?" she said one evening while visiting Ethan and Lily. "Of course." "Why did you stop? Most people would drive past, especially with your daughter in the car. You put her at risk by stopping." "Did I? Or did I teach her that helping people matters more than staying safe? That you don't walk past someone dying just because it's inconvenient?" "But what if whoever shot me came back? What if they'd killed you too?" "Then Lily would have known her father died doing the right thing. That's the best legacy I could leave her." Harper shook her head. "You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. Brave people and foolish people do the same things. They just have different reasons." Over the following weeks, Harper started bringing her daughter Ava to play with Lily. The girls bonded instantly. Two 7-year-olds who'd both lost mothers, finding comfort in each other. Ethan and Harper developed an easy friendship, built on mutual respect, on shared understanding of what it meant to be a single parent, on the knowledge that they both stared into darkness and survived. One evening, Harper showed him a photo, her with daughter Ava, both smiling. "I almost made her an orphan. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have a chance to apologize to her." Ethan said quietly, "You can still do that, every day." One evening, Harper gave Ethan a photo, her with daughter Ava, 7 years old. "I almost made her an orphan. Without you, I wouldn't have another chance to apologize to her." Ethan only said softly, "You can still do that every single day." Harper discovered data on her phone had been deleted. Only one audio recording remained. "If you say his name, no one in this investigation unit will survive." The voice of Lieutenant Harris, her direct supervisor. She met with Morales. "There's a mole in the unit. I need someone I can trust." Morales advised her to rest, but Harper decided to act alone. Ethan happened to see her rebandaging her old wound, so he helped. "You can't fight the whole system alone. You faced fire. I faced darkness. What's the difference? Both burn you if you're not prepared. He decided to help, using rescue skills to trace evidence at the scene. Found a bullet fired from a high angle, exactly from the building Harris usually monitored from. Harper photographed it, saved the evidence. She sent the data to Morales, but the email was blocked. One night, Harris came to her house, intending to seize the phone. Lily and Ava were playing in the living room, heard the door pounding. Ethan came in from outside, rushed between them. "Leave here." "Who are you?" "The only person here not carrying a gun, but not afraid either." First twist. Harris was recorded entirely thanks to Harper's smartwatch. When police arrived, Morales led the SWAT team to arrest him. Harper looked at Ethan. "Without you, I would have lost everything." The press reported, "Single dad saves female officer's life, helps expose police corruption ring." The community praised Ethan as a silent hero. Second twist. Harper was restored to honor, but she declined promotion. "I choose to transfer to community rescue training." Morales asked why. She looked at Ethan and smiled. "I learned how to save people without needing a badge." But the full truth was more complex than the headlines suggested. The corruption investigation revealed that Lieutenant Harris had been running protection for a major drug trafficking operation for over 10 years. Over 50 officers were implicated. Some took bribes, some looked the other way, some actively participated. Harper had been getting close to exposing them. Her investigation into what seemed like small-time dealers had actually been unraveling a massive network that went all the way to the state level. Harris had ordered her killed. The shooter had been a dirty cop, someone Harper had trusted, someone she'd worked with for 3 years. Officer Reynolds. He'd volunteered to partner with her that night specifically so he could execute her and make it look like a drug dealer had done it. Reynolds had shot her from behind, left her to die, radioed in a false report about pursuing suspects, would have gotten away with it if Ethan hadn't stopped. The investigation that followed was the largest internal affairs operation in the state's history. Dozens of arrests, complete restructuring of the narcotics division, federal oversight, and at the center of all of it, the testimony of a single dad who'd just been trying to do the right thing. Ethan had to testify at Harris's trial, had to sit in a courtroom and describe finding Harper, saving her, hearing her say she'd been shot from behind. Defense attorneys tried to discredit him. "You're not a medical professional. How do you know she was shot from behind?" "I'm a former firefighter with 8 years of emergency medical training. I've treated hundreds of gunshot wounds. I know entrance wounds from exit wounds. And I know the angle of trajectory. She was shot from above and behind by someone she'd turned her back on." The jury believed him. Harris was convicted. Reynolds turned state's evidence in exchange for a lighter sentence, testified against 12 other corrupt officers. After the trial, Morales found Ethan. "You know you probably saved dozens of lives, right? By stopping that night, by saving Harper? She's the only one who could untangle this mess. Without her testimony, without her evidence, Harris would still be out there, still running drugs, still corrupting cops, still destroying communities. I didn't save her for that reason. I saved her because she was dying and I could help." "I know, that's what makes you different. You didn't calculate, didn't weigh the pros and cons, didn't wonder if it was worth the risk. You just helped. That's rare. That matters." The investigation revealed something even more disturbing. Harris had been planning to kill Harper's daughter Ava next. They found surveillance photos of the girl's school, her routine, notes about the best time to stage an accident. He decided that if Harper survived the shooting, he'd eliminate her motivation to keep investigating by taking away what she loved most. When Harper learned this, she broke down completely. "He was going to kill my baby because I was doing my job, because I wouldn't look the other way." Ethan held her while she cried. "But he didn't, because you survived, because we found the evidence, because you were brave enough to keep fighting even when your own department turned against you. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. You just didn't have to. That's the difference." The revelation about the threat to Ava galvanized the entire police force. Even officers who'd been sympathetic to Harris, who'd believed he was just tough on crime, turned against him. Threatening a child crossed a line no one would defend. The prosecutors added attempted conspiracy to commit murder to Harris's charges. The judge, upon hearing the evidence, gave him life without parole. 3 months after Harris's conviction, the department held a ceremony, Harper receiving a Medal of Valor, Ethan receiving a Civilian Medal of Honor. He stood on stage, uncomfortable in borrowed dress clothes, Lily beside him in her best dress. The police chief spoke. Sometimes the bravest among us don't wear badges, don't carry guns, don't have authority or training or backup. They're just ordinary people who choose to be extraordinary in moments that matter. Harper pinned the medal on Ethan's chest. You gave me my life back. You gave my daughter her mother back. You gave this department a chance to be better. Thank you. I just did what anyone should do. But most people don't. That's the point. Most people drive past. Most people look away. Most people protect themselves first. You didn't. You stopped. You helped. You stayed. That's heroism. After the ceremony, Lily and Ava ran up on stage, hugging their parents. A photographer captured the moment. 2 single parents, 2 daughters, 4 people connected by trauma and courage and the choice to help. The photo went viral. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was human, real. A reminder that heroism looks like ordinary people doing decent things. A journalist who covered the trial wrote, "The most powerful testimony didn't come from the decorated detective. It came from the single dad who stopped to help because his daughter asked him to. Because that's what you do. You help." A few months later, Harper established Phoenix Center, a survival skills training program for children. Ethan became an instructor, teaching first aid and emergency response. The 2 girls, Lily and Ava, became the duo who fear nothing. At the first training session, Harper said, "Sometimes the person who saves your life isn't wearing a uniform, but is just a father trying to teach his daughter to do the right thing." Ethan just smiled, adjusting the microphone. "And sometimes the person who makes you believe in justice again is someone who once collapsed within it." Symbol of rebirth. The center's logo was a phoenix rising from human hands, engraved with, "Saved once, save others." They taught classes together. Harper still bore the scar on her shoulder. Ethan wore a necklace engraved with both girls' names. Harper said, "Now I believe courage doesn't need weapons, just heart." He replied, "And a reason to fight like those 2 little ones." But the real work they were doing went beyond just teaching first aid and survival skills. Phoenix Center became a model for community policing. Police officers trained alongside civilians, learning to see each other as partners rather than adversaries, breaking down the walls that had allowed corruption to flourish. Harper developed a program where officers spent 1 day a month working civilian jobs, driving delivery trucks like Ethan, working retail, doing janitorial work, experiencing what it was like to be the people they were supposed to serve and protect. Ethan developed a program teaching civilians what police work actually involved: the split-second decisions, the impossible situations, the trauma officers carried, humanizing both sides. The result was revolutionary. Trust, real, earned trust between police and community, not through slogans or press releases, but through shared experience and mutual respect. One evening, 6 months after the center opened, Harper and Ethan sat on the porch watching Lily and Ava practice rescue drills. "You know what's beautiful?" Harper said. "What?" "A year ago, I thought the system was broken beyond repair. That corruption had won. That good cops like me were dinosaurs, extinct in a world that rewarded looking the other way. And then you stopped. One person, one moment, and everything changed. I didn't change everything. You did the hard work, testified, investigated, fought. But I only could because you gave me a chance. You saved my life, literally and figuratively. You showed me that there are still people who help for no reason except that it's right. That restored my faith, not just in humanity, in myself, in the job I'd given up on." Ethan was quiet for a moment. You know what you gave me? Purpose. I'd spent 7 years just surviving, going through motions, existing but not living. And then that night when I saved you, something woke up in me. The part that used to be a firefighter, the part that knew how to help. I thought that part was dead. You helped me find it again. So we saved each other. Yeah, I guess we did. They sat in comfortable silence, two broken people who'd found wholeness through helping each other. Two single parents building something bigger than themselves. Two people who'd learned that heroism isn't a moment, but a choice you make every day. What happens now? Harper asked. We keep going, keep teaching, keep building, keep showing people that courage is contagious, that helping one person ripples out, that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Sounds like a plan. Lily and Ava ran over laughing, covered in mud from their training exercise. Daddy, Miss Harper, we rescued the dummy from the pretend fire. Ethan and Harper looked at each other and smiled, because that's what this was all about. Teaching the next generation, passing on courage, making the world a little bit braver. From this day forward, I choose to stop when others drive past. I choose to help when others look away. I choose courage over comfort. I will be the person who stops. 1 year later, Phoenix Center was honored as Outstanding Community Rescue Organization of the Year. Both families lived in the same peaceful, suburban neighborhood. At the awards ceremony, Morales spoke. The day Ethan Ward stopped his car in the rain, he didn't just save one person, he saved a system that was rotting from within. Harper presented a medal to Ethan. The man who carries no gun but has the strongest heart I've ever seen. He replied, I just did what my daughter said. Daddy, please help her. The two girls ran onto the stage, holding their father's and mother's hands. Harper held his hand. The stage lights shone on the four of them like a new family created from humanity. Final scene. The sky after rain, sunlight reflecting on the phoenix symbol. Harper looked at Ethan, saying softly, You taught me. No one is too small to change the world. He smiled. Just need enough courage to stop and save someone. But the real ending came 3 years later, when Phoenix Center had expanded to 12 cities across the state. Over 5,000 children had been trained in emergency response. Over 2,000 police officers had gone through the Community Partnership Program. Crime was down, trust was up. The model was being copied nationwide. Ethan and Harper had become partners not just in work, but in life. Not romantic partners, not yet, but family. Their daughters were sisters in all but blood. They lived next door to each other, shared dinners, shared holidays, shared the daily work of raising kids and building something meaningful. On the 3-year anniversary of the night Ethan had found Harper bleeding on the roadside, they returned to that spot, brought Lily and Ava, placed a memorial stone. The inscription read, Here, one person stopped and everything changed. Lily, now 11, asked, Daddy, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't stopped? Every day? Are you glad you did? More than anything, not just because I saved Miss Harper, but because I taught you that stopping matters, that helping matters, that one person can make a difference. You'll carry that lesson your whole life, and you'll teach it to your kids, and they'll teach it to theirs. That night didn't just save one life. It started a ripple that'll go on forever. Harper knelt beside the stone, placed flowers. 3 years ago, I thought I was going to die, and I was okay with it almost because I knew Ava would be taken care of. My parents would raise her. She'd be sad, but she'd survive. What I didn't know was that I'd be saved by a stranger who'd become family, that my daughter would gain a sister, that I'd find purpose beyond just catching bad guys, that I'd learn to save people in ways that don't involve guns or badges. Ava hugged her mother. I'm glad Mr. Ethan stopped. Me too, baby, me too. As they walked back to their cars, Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from a number he didn't recognize. I just completed your Phoenix Center training. Tonight I used it to help a car accident victim. Thank you for teaching me not to drive past. He showed Harper. She read it, tears in her eyes. That's 53, she said. 53 what? 53 people who've contacted us saying they helped someone because of what we taught them. 53 ripples. 53 lives changed because you stopped that night. Because we stopped, Ethan corrected. You stopped trying to fight corruption alone. You stopped thinking you had to be perfect. You stopped believing you were broken beyond repair. We both stopped, and we both saved each other. They stood in the fading light, four people who'd found each other through tragedy and courage, watching the sun set over the road where everything had changed. Harper took Ethan's hand. Thank you for stopping, for helping, for teaching me that heroism is just the choice to care when it would be easier not to. Thank you for giving me a reason to be brave again, for showing me that broken people can still save lives, for being family. The girls ran ahead, laughing, planning their next rescue training scenario, already thinking about who they'd help, how they'd serve, what difference they could make. Because that's what children of heroes do. They learn that helping isn't exceptional. It's just what people do. It's how the world should work. And then they go out and make it work that way. Ethan Ward had stopped his car in the rain 3 years ago. And in doing so, he'd started something that couldn't be stopped. A movement of ordinary people choosing to be extraordinary, of helpers creating more helpers, of courage multiplying through example. The police force had been shocked by what happened next, but they shouldn't have been. Because this is what always happens when good people refuse to drive past. When they stop, when they help, when they teach others to do the same. Darkness can only exist where no one lights a candle. And Ethan had lit a candle that night. A small flame that had grown into a wildfire of compassion. 3 years later, that fire was still burning, still spreading, still lighting the way for others who needed to see that heroism is possible. That helping matters. That stopping can change everything. If you believe real heroes don't need badges or headlines, share this story and subscribe. We tell moments that remind the world that courage is quiet, but it saves lives every day.